This is Kutztown Live, Kutztown University's campus and community radio magazine, with regular guest segments with the Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce. More information can be found on our Kutztown University radio website. And now, from the studios of Kutztown University Radio, Kutztown Live.
Welcome to Kutztown Live here on the radio voice of Kutztown University KUR. My name is Mike, and with me, my weekly reoccurring guest host, Lori from the Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce, and her guest of the week as well. So, Lori, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate being here to showcase our chamber members. Before we get started, I'd like to talk about two events that are coming up in the near term for the Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce. First of all, this coming Saturday, April 10th, starting at 9 a.m. at Alt House Training in Kutztown, 445 Greenwich Street, we will be doing a ribbon cutting and grand opening for this new business, Alt House Training. The owner is Irv Althouse, and we encourage anyone in the area, whether you're a member of the chamber or not, to come down to his new business. There'll be an open gym, there'll be light refreshments and some demonstrations, and show your support for a new local small business. The following week, on Friday, April 16th, the chamber will be hosting a virtual chamber meeting, a BYO breakfast. So instead of a face-to-face breakfast meeting, we'll be hosting a Zoom meeting. And on the agenda that day will be a student recognition program. It starts at 7:30 a.m. The cost to attend is $20. And our guest speaker will be Kim Stout from the SBA, Small Business Administration. And Kim will be giving us an update on the EIDL and PPP loans. And I'm sure that will be of interest to many of our small businesses. To stay current on the chamber happenings, please visit our website at northeastberkschamber.com or our LinkedIn group or our Facebook page. Now I'm very pleased to introduce our guest today. Her name is Dr. Ginny Kelbish, Dr. Virginia Kelbish, and I know she goes by Ginny. She is a former member of the chamber. Welcome, Ginny. It's so great to have you here on our chamber segment of Kutztown Live.
Thank you, Lori, for having me.
Of course. Now, just to give a little bit of background on Ginny, and I'm sure she'll tell us all about what she does. Ginny is a certified school psychologist and licensed psychologist in Pennsylvania, and she's recently moved her clinical practice to the Kutztown area on Noble Street. Is that correct, Ginny?
That's right, 92 Noble Street.
All right. We'll be having you share your contact information at the end of this interview so that anyone who's listening today or through the podcast that will be produced in the next day or so can reach out to you. Why don't you tell us about your services, Ginny, and what you do?
Well, as you said, my first role, I've worked as a school psychologist for over 2 decades, so I have a lot of experience with educational testing. And once I finished my doctoral work and became licensed, I worked at a group practice in the York, Pennsylvania area for over a decade, and that practice specialized in eating disorders. So I have a lot of experience with children, adolescents, and a lot of the issues that they face. But I also have a lot of experience with adults and even mature adults, like, as I like to say, people 65 and over. So this is a general practice and really address, anxiety, depression, but also, as I said, I have a lot of school specialties. So really, I have a lot of background in diagnosing attention deficits, autism, and learning issues, learning challenges, working with OCD and how that can impact learning and behavior. And then, yes, children with anger issues. So, yeah, I feel like I'm a strong generalist practitioner.
Yes, you have a broad range of experience. That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the educational testing. What is that exactly? If someone's listening today, how are you involved with that?
Well, now, and your school psychologist is available to do this testing, but some parents or people, I've had some people, even mature adults who want to know more about themselves. And educational testing usually is done to help someone identify a learning disability like dyslexia, but also issues with writing, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia, issues with math. So that usually involves an intelligence test and achievement testing, also some language assessments and processing assessments, often behavior assessments that involve anxiety, depression, again, attention issues, auditory processing. So that's the bulk. Educational testing can be quite extensive, or it can, be very specific to one immediate question.
Now, do you at times form a partnership with any of the schools or school districts so that students can be referred to you?
I have reached out to the Kutztown area school district, and they have been very receptive to working with me. And I do know the school psychologist well from our professional gatherings, and she's a wonderful person. But I'm also getting some contact with the school counselors. And I do think that there's a good place. I think where the schools are very excited is that schools are our frontline mental health services for children. Our school counselors and our school psychologists are often just have so much information about an individual child, and they are really the first person parents should think about talking to besides the teacher when they're worried about their child in any way. But then, often schools can't take the time to do, that clinical counseling work. And that is where I step in. And I think the Kutztown School District has felt that, they don't have someone close by. And for parents who are often very busy to have to drive half an hour to, a therapist or a counselor, that really can be taxing for a family. And it does interfere with accessing services. I really believe that proximity to services is an advantage for people and often keeps people seeking out the help they need. So that is one reason why I chose Kutztown. I really chose to be here because I felt that the college students and the area was in need of that private practice practitioner. And there are other agencies in the area in Bethlehem and Reading, and they're all good, but it's nice to have someone 15 minutes away. I'm a mom, so I remember if anything was over 15, 20 minutes, then you're really kind of stressed.
Well, you make an excellent point. And one of my questions that I was planning was, what was your reason for moving to Kutztown? And I think it does make sense that someone with your level of credentials is then very accessible in the area for the school district or for the university. Do you notice any trends happening with children and mental health issues over the last few years?
Children are more anxious, and we do see a little more depression in children, and there can be lots of theories about that. Children have a lot more privileges than they had years ago, but they also have a lot more demands on them and expectations. And so with a lot of privilege comes also some other stressors. And I think that's why we see a little bit more anxiety. We're also better at identifying it. We also are better at just seeing when children are struggling. And I think in the past, we assumed that all children were okay or they couldn't struggle with those things. And now we know children can struggle with troublesome, worries, even sad thoughts. Some children do struggle with sadness. And so we do, that is what I would say is a little bit more of a trend. I know it feels like many children are diagnosed now with autism and ADHD, but again, I'd say that we're better at identifying it and we understand those diagnoses better. And that is why we see more of it. We also have more options for treating those needs. And so before it, maybe you could get that identification, but you really didn't do much afterwards. But now we do have a lot of interventions, and to access those interventions, we need a term for it. We need to categorize behaviors and understand what we're addressing.
That certainly makes sense. And when you talk about anxiety and we think about the year that we've just been through with COVID-19,
Yes.
That has increased the anxiety of many people, you know,
Yes.
in the course of the pandemic. Are you conducting any virtual sessions as a result of the pandemic?
I am doing virtual sessions, and that is an option. But I will say, because the practice is still new and it's and quiet, I'm able to also have people in safely. And I'll be honest, people want to come in. I think we're all a little bit zoomed out.
I believe so. Yeah.
And I do think Zoom is here to stay, because it has become a nice way of communicating, an alternative way of communicating. But you know, in the end, people enjoy other people, and we enjoy face-to-face contact as well as me. So you know, we are wearing masks, and I try to keep everyone 6 feet apart, and I wipe down doorknobs and things like
Wonderful.
that. But you know, but I am doing the virtual sessions if people are open to that.
Now, if anyone listening today, Ginny, would like to contact you, could you share your contact information with us?
My phone number is 484-648-0398. I also have an email address, which is, and this is all lowercase, G Kelbish at DRGINNY-NBPS.com. The NBPS stands for Northern Berks Psychological Services. And then I do have a website, but it's a very generic website, but you can go there. I do have a few personalized comments, but it's www.drginny-mbps.com.
I wonder if there'd be any opportunities for students from Kutztown University who are psychology majors to potentially work with you, maybe in some type of an internship, for example. Is that something you might be open to in the future?
And now I always have to worry about confidentiality. So that's where students, I might not be able to actually have a student per se work with me for those confidentiality issues, but I do think that there's a place that students could do certain things, and I would definitely be open to talking to students about careers in psychology and school psychology. And I did reach out to one of maybe the head of the psychology department, just to let him know that, because I would love to work with a student and maybe even craft some way that they could, gain some experience through the practice. But I would have to really think about that carefully.
Well, you're so articulate. I'm sure you'd make an excellent speaker. I'm sure they would be open to having you come in and at least speak to the classroom. So,
oh, I'd love that.
Well, it's been very enjoyable getting to know you. And as you said, your practice is called Northern Berks Psychological Services on Noble Street in Kutztown.
Well, thank you very much, Lori. And I think Kutztown is very lucky to have you and the Northern Berks Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much.